All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 12th, 2023 Garbage and Recycling Advisory Committee meeting, our first one of the new year. Just some general logistics of our webinar this evening. You can connect through the audio. We are broadcasting. You don't necessarily need to call in. But you're automatically muted as you enter the room. So if you're ready to speak, you'll need to unmute. This presentation is recorded and we post it to the Washington County Solid Waste and Recycling webpage within about a week's time after this meeting. The agenda does hold time for public comment, and there's 2 different spaces that allow for that to happen. And if you are having any issues connecting or any interruptions during the broadcast, we point you back to Zoom support. We are offering translation services during this meeting. Panelists and attendees need to actively select between the Spanish or the English room. If you hover on the bottom of your bar, it'll bring up a menu that says interpretation, and then you can make your selection from there. And just as a meeting best practice, we encourage everyone to speak clearly and in a normal tone. Try to limit it to 1 person speaking at a time. And we do have the raise the hand feature available, so you can please ask for any clarifications if needed. Our GRAC committee bylaws on public comment. Only the committee chair may recognize a public attendee. Again, you can use the raise the hand feature. We also acknowledge that individuals may have called in to this event, and we certainly can take the time for them to come off mute if they have anything to add or express during those periods of time. Once you've been recognized by the chair, the response will be acknowledged by the committee, and then there may be a time limit imposed depending on the agenda. And from there, I'm going to stop sharing. And we will move on to roll call. Ashvin.
Yep. Hi.
Sandra.
Here.
Leslie is absent. Hannah.
Present.
Tom.
Present. Thank you.
Myra.
Presente.
Pete is absent this evening. Sue.
Present.
And Vinod.
Present.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And with that, I will turn you over to your regular meeting.
Thanks, Erin. Hi, everybody. We can get through the agenda quickly today. So, Tom, I don't know if you have some updates for us.
Yes. Thank you, Ashvin. And thank you, Victor, for the reminder to speak slower. My apologies, Myra, for my hasty speaking when Victor's trying to keep up with me. So first update on Recycle Plus. I just wanted to share that January this week and next is the first special collection for Recycle Plus, and that is, if you remember, string lights. So we know that's happening this week and next, and we're eager to look into and see how that went. Vinod might already be seeing some of those roll in, so it'd be good to learn more about how it went after the 2 weeks are up. We are also working with our consultants on rate analysis to get the Recycle Plus data in the detailed cost reports for the haulers this coming year. And we're going to be working through the cost side of that. A reminder on that, it's a new program. It's had 6 months of operating, so we are going to evaluate costs that come in with that lens, not expecting it to perform like a fully fledged mature program. Moving to the reduced rate program, it did start at the beginning of this year. Aaron worked really hard at the end of 2022 to get those contracts finally in place and the program details ironed out. Community Action is our partner. We have a new web page that regards the reduced rate program on our website. And that refers people over to Community Action to apply for the program. Within the first couple days, we had already received a handful of applications, and I think Community Action has approved already a handful of applicants. So we have our first reduced rate customers out there that will be getting that reduced rate on their next regular billing cycle. So we're excited to see that program roll out and see how it goes. We did put out a press release and I didn't see anybody pick it up, which is a little bit disappointing, but I guess it's exciting for us, not necessarily the media in the beginning of a new year. So bulky waste collection vouchers are out and about. We've delivered vouchers to several multifamily communities, apartment communities. Interestingly enough, the property managers have indicated that in most communities that they would like to just have the tenants directly request service from the hauler. We were a little surprised for that. We figured that the property managers might want to be more involved with coordinating it on the property. So we're going to see how that goes. And follow that closely as well. Legislative session is getting started next week. Lots of bills are dropping, lots of stuff to read and try to keep up with. There's a couple important ones I want to note for the committee that we'll be tracking closely here. First is the Oregon e-cycles update. I don't think that has been assigned a bill number yet. DQ has a legislative concept. And we're going to be tracking that closely. We want to avoid the types of things that happened last year where Venad's Recycling Center got kicked off of the e-cycles list, which was one of the main places in our county that these electronics were delivered. It's also going to update, my understanding, at least in concept, to include other electronics like video game consoles and fax machines. I don't know if those are still in existence, iPods, those types of things. So it's not just computers and TVs and stuff. Another bill is Senate Bill 542, which is a right to repair bill that has, we've already seen some of that language. I know last month, several folks on the committee expressed interest in learning more about right to repair. So maybe we'll talk with, we have a staff person that works in repair and reuse. And so Heather Robinson is her name. We're going to talk with Heather about either her or maybe working with the folks at Osberg who are kind of backing the bill, come to the committee and give us an update on right to repair and talk more about it. It'd be good. House Bill 2871 regards recyclability claims on packaging and products. So this is relating to the truth in labeling. So being able to put the chasing arrows on a package that's not recyclable, and that bill is there to start that conversation. I understand there's also a placeholder bill in the Senate side that regards the same stuff. So we'll see how that plays out. Senate Bill 543 would ban polystyrene food service ware. So styrofoam clamshells, things like that. Also coolers, styrofoam coolers, and packing peanuts. And it would also phase out PFAS, which is polyfluorinated, I don't know, bad stuff, a forever chemical that's in our food products, in food packaging over the next decade is how I understand that is set up. Senate Bill 544 is another bill that would reduce single-use packaging food serviceware by 25% over the next decade. So not just about recycling and banning, but some waste reduction statutory requirements, which would be interesting to see how that would work. And then the last one I'll mention here is Senate Bill 545, which is aiming to legalize reusables for to-go at grocery and restaurants. So there's health codes right now at both ODA, Department of Ag, and Oregon Health Authority that limit the ability for a restaurant to put food in your own Tupperware, for example. So they're trying to work to overcome that. Another thing about the legislative session, which is exciting for, I would say, everybody and us here in Washington County, maybe in particular. Senator Janine Solman is the new senator from Washington County for District 15. And that is like Banks, Cornelius, Forest Grove, parts of north of 26. And Senator Solman was selected as the chair of the Energy and Environment Committee in the Senate side. She's a master recycler. She's friendly to our work and is a great champion. She was one of the big champions behind the Recycling Modernization Act. So we're really excited to see Senator Solman in that leadership role. And hopefully she can help push some really exciting bills through. I know in particular, she's excited about right to repair. So maybe that's something that has some legs this year. They also understand that New York passed a right to repair bill recently. So it has been done in the United States. So it's not an uncharted territory anymore. So I'll stop there on legislative work. I will try to keep you updated when things happen. It happens fast and feverishly, but if there's any big milestones, I'll try to make sure we share that. I also just wanted to mention that we are going to begin reviewing and researching a residential food scraps program for unincorporated Washington County. Recology Organics North Plains has finished their update to their system. They're completely ready to go online and uptake their tonnage to the 80,000 tons per year that they're permitted for. They've told us, they've signaled to us that they have the capacity to bring in the quantity from unincorporated Washington County. So we'll be starting that conversation with North Plains Recology and also the our rate consultants to try to understand what those impacts might be. One hiccup there is we recently realized, I guess I would say, that because we have a Japanese beetle outbreak in the Cedar Mill area, that yard debris between June and October of every year is in a yard debris quarantine. So instead of going to a compost facility during those months when the beetles are flying and hatching and making larvae, it goes to the Hillsborough landfill to be buried to kind of eradicate and contain the beetles. If we add food to the yard debris, it can't go to the Hillsborough landfill. So that's a problem. We're talking with the ODA, Department of Agriculture, who's managing the beetle eradication project. They're feeling good. They're winning. The quarantine area will be shrinking this year, and they've asked us to try to at least hold the program, any program launch date until after this beetles hatch season, which would be starting in October 1st of 2023, which is perfectly reasonable in my mind if we start a program in the fall versus in the summer in order to support the eradication project with the beetles. So we're continuing that conversation and talking with the Department of Ag and the Department of Environmental Quality on where that might go and different treatment methods and different options for how to manage that waste. Lastly, I just want to quickly touch on the Recycling Modernization Act work. Tons of work happening. 6-hour DEQ meetings. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And there's a couple big things that are starting to take shape. The first one I will try to talk about a little bit, and we'll send additional information in the update or the follow-up to this meeting, is about we're starting to get a clearer picture of what the uniform statewide collection list might look like. So this is what we put in our programs on the curb, and we're going to be required to collect what is on that list. Some things we might see go away from what we do today. I'm pretty sure we're going to see shredded paper come off the list. We're going to see aerosol cans come off the list. Larger scrap metal from 10 to 30 pounds will come off the list. And aluminum foil looks like it's going to come off the list. Kind of minor things in my mind. Those are peripheral things, not necessarily core things. Things that we think we're going to see go on the list that are not on the list now. Clear plastic cups. So think about your Starbucks cold drink cup. We think we're going to see paper cans, your Pringles can with metal ends. We'll see, but not, we'll see. There's some debate about the Pringles can. That's on the list right now. I'm just reading what's on the list, Vinod. I'm watching Vinod's facial expressions. Poly-coated paper cups, which is your coffee cup, your hot coffee cup. So it's paper with a poly liner. And plastic storage bins that fit in the cart. So that would be like your Rubbermaid bin that you put your Christmas decorations in. Maybe not the big one, but the littler ones might go onto the list. So those are some good additions, I think, and some of those subtractions as well. So we'll see how that goes. Another interesting thing we're seeing is looks like DQ is not going to require that we collect glass at the curb. So right now we're collecting glass on the side. And that might not be a requirement anymore. It's still a Metro requirement, but Metro would have the ability and local governments could work together to decide if that's still a program we want to offer or operate. And then there's some depot list items that would be required to be collected at collection depots set up by the producer organizations. And those would include those aerosol cans, the aluminum foil, the shredded paper, and the glass, and the large scrap metal that comes off the list. It also looks like it might include single-use propane canisters, which is great, the green propane canisters. Plastic film, so plastic bags. Those hard, rigid 6-pack holders, the HDPE ones, not the ones that your Coca-Cola comes in, but a lot of craft beers using those cap 6-pack canisters. Bigger buckets and tubs again, those big containers, plastic lids, and also block white styrofoam. Does that sound right, Vinod? I'm sure you're following this very closely too, maybe closer than we are.
Yeah, I think you covered them all. And just so some of the things like we talked about aerosol cans, the issue with that is that the tin can maker, the mills don't want them because if they're not punctured, they can explode in their furnace. And then there's also concern with them expelling, toxic materials at the MRF level and some of those things. So there's just some nuances, things, and like the shredded paper, it's not that it's a contaminant, but it just goes everywhere, and so it's hard to capture in most facilities. So there's some nuances as to why they're going in there. The paper can, that's why I was kind of chuckling, because there's a lot of questions as to why you'd put something that is a contaminant in both streams, whether it goes to the metal or the paper. So there's a little bit of pushback from industry on that. So there's a lot of conversations. There's a lot of conversations around all these, especially the material list. Yeah, Tom, they mentioned they had a what is it, 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock meeting yesterday, or that all runs together now. But yeah, there's a lot to cover, and sometimes even in the 6 hours you don't get through the whole list of what they want to talk about. So, but yeah, that's a good summary.
You're in the weeds when you're arguing over Pringles cans. Yeah. that's the level of weeds that this gets down into. So last part of my update real quick. I'm sorry, this is a long one. I realize. Next month, we have on our agenda to talk about the Recycling Modernization Act needs assessment. So this is, let me see if I can explain it. Essentially, the Recycling Modernization Act is going to require things to change. Not very much, maybe in the metro region, because we have a robust list. We provide curbside recycling to all of our customers. We have multifamily recycling. We have commercial recycling. We do a lot in the metro region. Not all parts of the state have as robust of programs, but there will be changes. We just talked about the list changing, new depots being formed and built. Those are changes. The needs assessment is designed for us as local governments to say to the state, for them to say to the producer responsibility organizations when they form, this is what we need to comply with this new law. And it's our opportunity to put our needs out there, and they will then be obligated to negotiate with us as local governments on how they could fund those needs, provided we still need them at the time. So say, for example, we're going to collect more recycling. We need another truck in this territory. This is a simple example that's not necessarily going to play out in the metro region, probably. the PROs would be obligated to help fund that capital investment in order for us to start collecting this new program. So we're gonna put together, we have the survey now, it's been delivered to us. We have till April 15th to complete it as a local government. And we're gonna put this on the agenda for the next month's GRAC meeting because we would love ideas and input from you all. We'll try to put together some homework and a list of questions that you could think through in terms of helping us generate ideas. We don't want to assume we know it all or have thought of all the ideas. So it'd be great to get any input you all might have to help us complete that needs assessment.
I was just gonna add one more thing to the why we're in the weeds is because we want to make sure that this rolls out, it rolls out correctly, and we don't have to come back and say, oh, maybe we shouldn't have put that on there or something. So we want to make sure we get the right stuff on the list. And there's two camps on it, an expansive list because people don't want to lose things they have. And the other one is a simple list that you can add to because it's easier from the industry perspective to say, oh, go ahead and put this in the bin now than to try to get it out later. We want to be clear and get rid of the customer confusion piece of it. So that's why we're spending so much time on the little nitty-gritty things.
And I think from you know, now we can debate this all night, but from my perspective, from Metro Region's perspective, there's not that much change for us. And if some of the people want a smaller list, that would be a big knockdown for us. And I don't think we want to deliver to our community a tiny little list and tell them we've just modernized recycling, because I think they will reject that. So that's my feeling about it. So I want to see improvement. I want to see some expansion of our opportunity to recycle, because that's what our community wants. And they told us that loud and clear as we talked about Recycle Plus. So that's, I think, what we're going to be advocating for, at least initially from the Metro Region local governments. I see from like Eastern Oregon, it's like, oh my gosh, we're not doing, this is a big change. And that's a different perspective to look at it through, for certainly. Yeah. Thanks, Vinod, and thanks everybody. That's all my updates, Ashvin. Maybe Kathy has some updates on calendars and stuff.
Thanks, Tom. That was comprehensive. Are you able to send something out that like lists that out?
Yes, the list changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the proposed new list. It's not like crosswalking what we have now and what it might be. But we will send out something. I put something, we'll send it out.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's probably the most interesting thing for this committee. So thanks, Tom. Yeah, Kathy, do you want to go ahead with any updates to the calendar or additional news?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here this month. The first thing is that we are still recruiting for our open GRAC positions, as well as Sue, who's her position terms out at the end of March. She's been a long time GRAC member and her service is very much appreciated. Yeah, exactly. So if you know anyone or are at a meeting or really appreciate you mentioning that we do have open positions. We haven't gotten very many applicants in the round that we've been recruiting since the fall. So we're just looking for a pool of applicants. So that's just my wish, is that you guys know the best about what it means to serve on GRAC. So appreciate any help you can offer. In terms of the calendar, it'll be updated for the next meeting, but I just wanted to mention that the May meeting would normally be May 11th, but similar to last year, we intend to move that out 1 week to May 18th, mainly to allow a little bit of extra time for rate review. It worked out really well last year to have that extra week. That is an action item, so we'll be looking for a quorum. It's likely, if we do start moving forward with the plans for residential food scraps, that we might have an administrative rule package, a small one that goes along with those rates. So that would be another action item. We try to have them on the same meeting. In my next communication with you guys, in addition to sending out the proposed list, I think we owe you the truth in labeling report. So I'll make sure that that gets sent out as well. We're still looking, as Tom said, to schedule something on right to repair. And then I think there was interest in all of our miscellaneous fees that get charged. Everything from distance charge fees to smiley can fees. That's always a fun one, where your cans open just a little and they give it such a cute name, like it's smiling, and then you get charged. So we'll try and pull something together to have a short presentation on that. It's looking like April is pretty empty right now, so maybe somewhere in that time frame. Just we're pretty packed February and March. So other than that, I don't have anything else for updates this time.
Yeah, thanks, Kath. Question, Tom?
Yeah, actually, thanks, Ashwin. I just wanted to also invite everybody to the PlanetCon event that our education team is going to be hosting. Of course, you all are welcome. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff and recycling and repair and reuse activities and things to see. It is this Saturday on the 14th. We'll send out some more information. It's from 11 to 2 at PCC Rock Creek. So if you're free this Saturday, please join the team at PlanetCon.
Thanks. Yeah, Hannah, a question?
Yeah, I was gonna actually ask if I'm glad to hear that Washington County's got a team there, because it would be handy to have so many recycling enthusiasts in one place to maybe advertise the open positions. And so if you have like a one-page handout or business card or anything that we could share around, that would be super. Maybe something digital, because I know I talk to a lot more people virtually these days than I do in person. So I'd love to share the opportunity if we could get a email description of the position or anything. Thanks.
Yeah, we do have a one-pager that's English and Spanish that we can give you, and maybe get some printed versions out. Ricardo, I think are you going to be at the event, right? I think
Sí, voy a estar en el
Yeah.
evento y te voy a enviar un enlace de dónde está la página para que lo podamos mandar más adelante. So if you can.
Thanks. Thank you. And we'll send that to you, Hannah, as well.
Good thought. So I think that's all, unless anyone has any other questions on those updates. We can pause for a little bit to see if anybody from the attendees wants to speak. This is the time for public comment.
I'm not seeing any hands raised, and we have no call-ins, so
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Cool, then we can go into our presentation. Hila, if you want to take over.
Hi, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Great. So my name is Hyla Ritter, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am the compliance coordinator at Metro. I'm going to share my screen here. Everybody see that okay?
Yep, I can see it. Thank you.
Great. So I will try and remember to speak slowly, but please feel free to jump in and give me a reminder. It's not my normal cadence. And I'm here today to give an overview of the facilities authorized by Metro to accept and manage garbage and recycling that's been generated in this region. And just a couple of quick points before I start getting into the slides. Our system is dynamic. It's changing all of the time, and there are a lot of components. So the focus of this presentation is on the facilities of the system and how waste moves through the system, and just a high-level introduction to Metro's regulatory oversight of the system. And I know that GRAC, that you folks recently did a couple of facility tours. So hopefully this presentation will help kind of connect all the dots into, you know, our system as a whole for this region. And there's a lot of nuance that I'm not going to be getting into in our time together tonight. So just keep in mind, this is intended to be an introduction. And I also have a one-pager with a lot of links and additional information and resources if you want to do some more deep dive into some of these topics that we're going to be going into today. So it sounds like you folks are all real familiar with the metro region and what it is, but I just wanted to start off with this slide showing the geographic area of our region that we have here. And this is also showing the individual districts that make up the metro region. Washington County, as you probably already know, is District 4 and represented by Metro Councilor Juan Carlos Gonzalez. And, you know, it's important to sort of start out with pointing out that Metro's role is pretty unique. As a regional government, just in general, we are the only regionally elected government in the United States. And we're also unique in our partnerships with local governments, where there are some, including the state of Oregon, where there are some overlapping and some distinct roles within the solid waste system. And our Metro's role specifically is multifaceted because we are a regulator, we're a service provider and participant in the system, we're a contract employer with contracted operators at our own facilities that I'll explain a little bit more about. We're an educator about the garbage and recycling system and waste reduction. And we're also an investor in the system through our Investment and Innovation I&I grant program. So there's a lot of different things that we're not going to be getting into in this presentation. And Metro does a lot of different kinds of things. And we're going to be talking specifically about the facilities here. So you've probably seen this infographic before, or something similar, and it shows you know, waste at the curb collected by haulers. Usually it's taken to an intermediary facility for consolidation or processing, and then it's generally taken to final disposition or market depending on the material type. And this, you know, general layout is pretty true across the US, but in this region, we're particularly complex because there's a lot of different private companies that are involved in this system and government service providers who are all performing different functions, and it's constantly changing. So I'm going to be talking mostly, I think you can see my mouse here, I'm going to be talking mostly about this part of the system, and then at the very end, the final disposition. So this is a map that is on our webpage, the Metro webpage. The link is on that one-page sheet that you've got. And this map is pretty complicated because it's trying to show a lot of things all in one single image. So it's got both Metro regulated and non-regulated facility. The patches of color that you see throughout are hauler boundaries. And facility ownership is also identified in the key here. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to be walking through a series of maps that break this map down by facility types based on the waste that they accept and how it's managed. And then I'm going to be talking specifically about facilities that are authorized by Metro in some way to receive metro area waste. And that's what I mean when I'm talking about the regional system. So we're going to start with transfer stations. So the primary function of a transfer station is to consolidate waste for transport to disposal. Some transfer stations also do sorting of material types, co-located with MRFs, material recovery facilities. And I just making sure we're all on the same page here. At the top of the slide here, it says putrescible waste. Putrescible is another word for garbage, municipal waste. things that can rot, in generally speaking. So this is the facilities that are accepting mixed waste, putrescible waste, municipal waste, all different ways of saying similar thing, garbage. So you see in here, Metro Central and Metro South have are indicated in red. Those are the facilities that Metro owns. Recology is the operator that is contracted by Metro to be working on our facilities along with Metro staff folk. We are the only transfer stations in the region that accept household hazardous waste from the public. We also accept recyclable materials at our stations. Some other transfer stations also have recycling depots, but the others do not accept waste from the public. Not all of them accept waste from the public. So I'll talk first about the nationally owned garbage and recycling facilities. So Waste Management has 2 transfer stations in our region. We've got Forest Grove over here on the west side, and Troutdale Transfer Station over on the east side are the 2 Waste Management owned transfer stations. Republic Services has down here in the southern end is Willamette Resources, also known as WRI. And down here, just outside of the region, is Canby Transfer Station, and that is a Waste Connections facility, and it is out of the region, but is designated to accept metro area waste. So the others are all locally owned. Still down here on the southern part, we'll talk about Pride Recycling Company, just in the Sherwood area. And we've got Gresham Transfer Station out in Gresham. And Core Transfer Station. Core stands for City of Roses. So you may have heard it referred to as City of Roses or Core Transfer Station. So in addition to those, West Van Material Recovery and Central Transfer and Recycling Center are over on the Vancouver side. And I included them in here because they have, they're in proximity and they are authorized by Metro through non-system licenses, a different kind of licensing type for specific types of metro area waste to go to these facilities as well. So these are the transfer stations where metro area waste goes through. And then they go to landfills. So we're going to be talking about landfills next. And the purpose of this slide is really to show that there are no active landfills accepting putrescible waste in the metro region. There's a couple of closed landfills in the metro region that Metro either owns or monitors, but those are a conversation for a different day. So moving outside of the region, excuse me. I'm going to start with Esco Sauvie Island landfill because that one is a limited purpose dry waste captive landfill. So it is owned and used exclusively by Esco Company for the disposal of its own foundry waste. So it is not open to the public. It's not open to any other kinds of customers. It only takes that one type of material from its own company. But it is a landfill that is taking metro area waste, so it's included for that reason. And then next I'm going to scooch over to Hillsborough landfill, which is just outside of the metro boundary. It's a waste management landfill, dry waste landfill, which is primarily construction and demolition debris like furniture and things like that. And I'll talk about Hillsborough landfill again in a minute when we talk about the MRFs, because they are co-located with a MRF. Next, I'm going to scoot over to the eastern part of the state a little bit and talk about chemical waste management. This is a waste management landfill. It's a hazardous waste landfill. It's the only hazardous waste landfill in the state. And it's has a different kind of liner, different kind of permitting and controls to allow it to accept specific types of hazardous waste for disposal. And then let's see, I'm going to go to the Covanta Waste to Energy facility next. So that is in the Salem area just outside of Salem. So waste to energy facilities or burners are a pretty popular method of disposal in Europe because of their limited land capacity. This Covanta facility is the only waste to energy facility in Oregon. It primarily accepts Marion County waste, so local waste, but some metro area waste also goes there and is allowed to go there. So then going right back up here, right next to chemical waste management is Columbia Ridge landfill. That is the waste management landfill as well. They're right next door to each other in Arlington. And most of the waste from Metro Central and Metro South transfer stations that we accept at those sites goes to Columbia Ridge landfill. But metro area waste goes to all of the landfills that are shown on this slide. So the other landfills here are, Finley Buttes and Wasco, which are Waste Connections landfill, municipal waste, and Roosevelt and Coffin Butte are Republic Service landfills. Again, mixed waste, municipal waste landfills, and then Cowlitz County, which is owned by the county and is also a municipal waste landfill. So now we're going to slide into talking about recycling. So this slide is showing material recovery facilities, MRFs, and reload facilities. And the primary function of all of these businesses on this slide is to accept and process waste in some way. So material recovery facilities recover waste, recover materials through sorting or processing to get the valuable products from discarded waste. And we have two main categories of material recovery facilities, and they're indicated here with the different triangles. There's the source separated material recovery facilities and the dry waste material recovery facilities. And the dry waste is like, again, the C&D facilities, and this is where Tualatin Valley Waste Recovery is shown here, and is the material recovery facility that is co-located with Hillsborough, and the source separated material recovery facilities with the downward pointing triangles is where the curbside materials go, generally paper, plastic, and metal, that is commingled together and then taken out, separated into commodities at these facilities. The other types of facilities shown on here are reload facilities, which are facilities like oil reloads and tire processors that accept, and in some cases process and consolidate those specific types of waste. And all the companies on here, all the different businesses reflected on this slide, like I said earlier, their primary function is to process or consolidate waste. But in addition to these companies, there are several transfer stations that are also doing material recovery facility. So when you add those in, that's what it looks like in the region where that activity is happening in and near the region. So moving on to compost and yard debris facilities. So these facilities' primary function is to accept and manage yard debris to varying degrees. Yard debris reloads are the facilities that are accepting yard debris from customers. They do some processing, consolidation, and then reload to another facility for the actual composting. There are 5 compost facilities in the region, but this Sunderland recycling facility that's up here in North Portland is owned by the city of Portland, and it's leaves only from the city of Portland. And so really there's 4 yard debris composters in the region. And they're all locally owned except for the Sunderland facility, like I mentioned. And I've got Recology Organics North Plains, which I know you all just visited, on this slide, even though it's outside of the metro region, because of its proximity to the region, and because so much of our yard debris goes there. And again, some of the transfer stations and material recovery facilities accept and reload yard debris or yard debris with food waste. And this is the map when they've been added in, and the little F that's inside those circles or triangles or diamonds is indicating food waste. And in some cases that's a commercial, in some cases it's residential, but that, you know, minutia is not distinguished on this slide. Almost done, just a couple more. So this is the compost and food waste processing facilities that are outside of the region. And so the primary function of these facilities is to compost materials into soil or to process the materials for energy recovery through anaerobic digestion. So again, outside of the metro region is where residential and commercial food waste is going for composting. Out of these facilities here, Dirt Hugger is the only one that's locally owned, and all of the others are national waste companies. And I've got Pacific Region Compost, also known as PRC here, which is right outside of Corvallis. It's not designated as part of Metro system, but again, waste is authorized to go there under authority of a non-system license. So that's why it's got a little bit of a different look on this slide. So Divert is the food waste processing facility here. They are located in Albany, and that facility takes packaged food waste and depackages it and turns it into a liquid slurry that's then trucked and fed into a third-party anaerobic digester. And an anaerobic digester is essentially a big stomach where it's digesting all of the nutrients and components and creating energy, and then the solids are land applied that come out at the end of that process. So when you put it all together, this is what the regional system looks like. So specific types and amounts of waste that's generated in the metro area is authorized to go to specific facilities through a system of metro issued solid waste facility licenses, non-system licenses, franchises, and designated facility agreements. As I mentioned at the start, this system is very dynamic. I last did this presentation 6 months ago, and I've made a lot of changes in order to update it and have it be accurate for you folks tonight. And just the last thing that I want to share with you is I am on Metro's standards and compliance team, and our body of work that we do on our team is authorizing and doing the oversight of all the solid waste facilities and compliance with Metro's garbage and recycling requirements. So we have inspectors on our team that are going out to these facilities to monitor for compliance and to provide technical assistance. We have our authorization coordinator, who's the one that's writing all of these licenses and doing public notice and public engagement so folks understand what our requirements are and how the system is operating. We have analysts that are tracking the tonnage volumes and the fees and taxes and data to make sure that waste is flowing the way that it should be and fees and taxes are being paid, and to help inform our system planning. We have enforcement, which is what I do specifically, where we are researching issues that have been identified through our system monitoring and making recommendations for how Metro will hold folks who are participating in our system accountable and implementing the requirements that Metro has put together in Metro Code and the goals that we're trying to achieve through our regional waste plan, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about. And then of course we have our intrepid admin folks who are the glue that just keeps everything together. And that's the team of folks that I am privileged to work with. So that's my presentation of the system and a little bit about the team that I work on. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing and look at all your lovely faces again.
Thank you. That was very informative. A lot of
It's a lot.
companies and things I've not heard of. It's kind of fun to look them up and see. I had one question on, like, in terms of like national companies versus local companies. Have you seen like a shift to more national companies taking over and less local companies? And have you seen a difference in like the quality between those two, or just any commentary on that?
It's been it's been a shift over time, certainly. So I've worked for Metro, tomorrow is my Metroversary, as we like to say, for 9 years. And in my 9 years, we've seen a lot of locally owned businesses be bought out, either just closed up shop altogether or be bought out by national companies. So yes, it's happening frequently. As to the quality, it really depends. And sometimes the local folks don't have access to the same type of capital that the national folks do. And so sometimes the local folks really struggle in different ways. And then, there are other challenges with national companies may not be as familiar with, our standards and requirements in this region, because we really do have high standards here that, we're really proud of, and always seeking to do better, of course. So it's hard to say. It really varies a lot.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Tom, good question.
Yeah, I have two. I think one's easy and one's not as easy. First one, Vinod, maybe this is a question for you too. I know that Far West has a Tualatin facility. Is that not a MRF, or is that not? I didn't see it on that.
No, it's not a regulated MRF,
Okay.
so they're not in there. So just to Ashvin's question, there are, minimum standards. So we have a Metro license that sets a baseline. These are the things you have to do. And then we also now have a DEQ solid waste permit. So we're definitely permitted, but they both have the same types of things in them, nuisance control and following regulations. And so there is a standard everybody has to meet. Like Hyla said, they set the bar, and then we have to achieve it.
Maybe we can get you a Washington County franchise agreement too, but not. Just kidding. You're in Hillsborough, so you're out. My other question, Hyla, is for you. Can you talk about, from your perspective, what you think the biggest gaps are, or the areas for improvement in the regional facilities?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to give you two answers. The first one is that we are actively engaging right now in a big project called the Garbage and Recycling System Facilities Plan, where we are doing a comprehensive gap analysis when we're working with local governments and with community partners and industry to really understand where those service gaps are, where those pinch points are, and to think about what Metro's role is in helping fill those gaps, whether it's establishing new facilities that Metro operates, or investing in additional, like I said, we already do the I&I grants, but investing in nonprofits or other kinds of opportunities to fill those gaps, both in, and that project is really looking specifically, it's a pretty broad project, and they're trying to accomplish lots of things and get a comprehensive view, but they're really facility focused and thinking about what facilities we need. So that's that work is actively underway, and we're going to be developing a plan for how to make the system work better for everyone through the analysis that we're working on right now. So that's my first answer. That's my official answer. My individual personal answer is I really feel strongly about compost capacity and our shrinking ability for composting capacity in and near the region, juxtaposed with our increasing generation of yard debris and food waste in particular, and then putting those things together and then having a place for that to go and be processed. Composting is always going to generate odors. It's an organic process. When something rots, it stinks. It just happens. Composting done well is usually like an earthy odor and not a stinky smell for most people. But it takes a lot of engineering and science to do composting well like that. And folks on all ends of the spectrum are reluctant to have new compost operations because folks don't want to live next door to compost operations, and operators aren't willing to take on the risk of compost operations in a lot of circumstances. And so for my own individual personal opinion, that's composting and management of yard debris and food waste is a really big deal. And then, of course, as we all know, when those things do decompose, the greenhouse gases that they emit are the most potent. And so that is our biggest opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, is by managing that material well. And so there's just, and then we can put it right back into the soil. And we all know with climate change, our soils are eroding and we need better soils. And so it's just, I'm all about the compost. I love the compost. So thanks for asking.
Thanks. Yeah, any other questions, committee members?
I had one more question, Ashman, if I could be indulged.
Please.
Hyla, I know you talked about the regional system facility plan, and maybe once that gets further along, that would be another great thing to bring to this committee. So we can look into that too. But
Sure, they would love to.
yeah. One of the things that, it strikes me when I'm looking at the facilities network is that we're talking about end of life. And when we are starting to think about how do we incorporate more upstream into our systems, reuse, infrastructure, and repair businesses, those are, based on the state's definition, solid waste. They're not permitted licensed solid waste facilities, but they're handling forms of solid waste. So thinking scrap and rebuilding center and the Habitat for Humanity restore. So do you envision those becoming more acknowledged in the system as we kind of build out the regional system facility plan and understand how reuse plays in? I know Portland has the repair finder where they've tried to inventory businesses that fix vacuum cleaners and do mending and those kinds of things, so we can build like a regional map of mending businesses or repair businesses. And I think that's all part of the picture, the big picture at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what the engagement that we've done thus far, and the roundtables that we've been hearing so far, that's what everybody is pointing towards and is talking about, and is really about depots, figuring out what the depot situation is going to be. And a lot of that is dependent on, as you were talking about at the start of this meeting, RMA and how things how things develop with that for the state. But that's absolutely the hot topic with the garbage and recycling system facilities plan, is reuse, repair, and recycling infrastructure. Certainly, it's pretty unlikely that the reuse facilities that you were describing, like rebuilding center and scrap and those kinds of places, would come under Metro authorization, that we would require them to get licensed by us. We are constantly evaluating the facilities out there that are accepting different kinds of solid waste, and what our exemptions include and don't include, and bringing on new classes of facilities and individual facilities under Metro authority and regulation. So that's an ongoing conversation always, but the reuse facilities like scrap and rebuilding center are not on that list.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. The time. We can move to the next item, which is opportunity for public communication. Again. And looks like nobody's interested in speaking today, so we can adjourn then. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. I
Thanks.
sent you all the link to PlanetCon, so
Yeah.
look for it.
Have a good night.
Bye.
See you in
We
February.
kept it to an hour, Ashwin. It was perfect.
Thanks,
On the
Hyla.
nose.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
Thanks, Hyla.
Bye. Gracias, Leti. Gracias, Victor.
We should talk again about Pride.
Have a
when you
good
have
night,
some-
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for attending the January 12th.
Connect with me and
meeting.
email,
I'm
Hyla.
going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Hasta luego.
Thanks, Ricardo.